Aloha, friends. This is Dr. Rick Bennett, and I want to share with you some information that provides a lot of hope and optimism about water. You can't watch the evening news without realizing the world is hurting for water. Communities across the United States have done dramatic things to improve their water resources. Hawaii, state of Hawaii is way behind the curve. And so the message here is to promote purple pipe proliferation. Purple pipe is the color of pipe used for reclaimed water. And there are communities all over the United States and the world where purple pipe is proliferating. The long-range forecasts that come out of Stanford University for rainfall in the Hawaiian Islands is dire. We are already experiencing a 14 to 18% decline in rain, and that and more is predicted through the end of the century. And there will be huge regional perturbations. Some places will get a fairly good rain in a given year. Other places will get very little. The net trend is dry, 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 and we need to behave accordingly. So what's needed is a huge paradigm shift. All over Hawaii Island, used water, wastewater, stormwater is conveyed in pipes to the sea, pipes to the ground, and discharged as if it were a radioactive pollutant. Other communities, including some on Hawaii Island, see things differently and have made a paradigm shift. And so we see golf courses in Waikoloa, golf courses in Keho reusing wastewater. The nutrients in wastewater are beneficial for the golf course and have value. Other places in the United States, the purple pipe is supplying highly treated water suitable to irrigate crops that we would consume raw, and we can do so very safely. Needed is this paradigm shift. So in San Diego, they're treating wastewater so well they can inject it into the ground where drinking water is pumped. In Florida, a state that gets a lot of rain, they're still providing wastewater for the irrigation of landscape. In Santa Rosa, California, where I started working with wastewater in the 1980s, they were going to put wastewater into the rivers, into San Francisco Bay, into the rivers that drained into the ocean, and scientists and people said, wait a minute, that's harmful. Why don't we reuse the water? And there was tremendous opposition to reuse. Today, people are standing in line to get reclaimed water for their farms, for their vineyards, for their orchards, because it is such a valuable crop. In Israel, probably the world's leader in water reuse, they're irrigating the desert with reclaimed water and growing food crops. Similarly, in North Africa, and even over on Maui, they have found an opportunity to irrigate public spaces, and will be doing a lot more in Maui because they were told in the highest court of the land that you can't discharge wastewater into the ocean without the necessary permits they were unable and unwilling to get. So at the personal level, we can reclaim a lot of water. The only water we can't reclaim is from the kitchen sink and from the toilets. Everything else can be reused and reused lawfully at the home. 56% of household water can be reused. We still are using fresh water to irrigate lawns and landscape. And as simple as irrigation may seem, most of us really don't know how to do it. And about 50% of water used in the outdoors is simply wasted. So we've got water available today for reuse should the County of Hawaii make that commitment. About 1.8 million gallons a day are being dumped into a hole near Honokahau Harbor where it emerges. 1.8 mgd is sufficient water for 155 acres of grass irrigated by sprinkler. We could replace all of the water used to irrigate the old airport recreation areas and save all of that fresh water for its best use, which is human drinking water. We know how to irrigate. It is a science and a technology. It's driven by the environment. Temperature, wind, solar radiation, all determine how much water plants need. And we can match that with the irrigation technology we have today. But you have to apply the technology. You simply just can't turn sprinklers on and turn them off when it seems like it's okay. Plants need water. Soil is a bank for water. It can hold water, especially if the soil is very fine textured. Coarse soils, like we have here in Kona, don't hold a lot of water. It drains through, and so the water has to be applied regularly. Otherwise, the plants will wilt, and once they wilt, they stop using water, and our irrigation efficiency goes way, way down, and our ability to reuse water and hence dispose of it productively is greatly hampered. And so irrigation technology is very important. We've got to match the addition of water to how much water is transpired and evaporate. Pretty simple, but doing it right requires people who know what they're doing and to use the available technology. We have technology like this weather station here called TempSense that can tell us exactly how much water has evaporated and exactly how much water is needed at any specific location. So green lands in a landscape that's typically not green are simply better economically and environmentally for Hawaii. Green oceans, as we have seen from time to time, is not good for Hawaii. So whether you're at Palamanui or a golf course in Waikoloa or a golf course in Keho or a wastewater treatment pond at the Honolulu airport, there are ways to use reclaimed water to augment the environment and create value. So today, not too far from the Kona Police Station and 0.7 of a mile from the east end of Honokahau is a sump. And in that sump, about 1.8 million gallons of water are disposed of each day.
It has that algae in there.
And that water contains nitrogen, phosphorus, some ammonia, and a number of other things which act as fertilizers for the oceans. This segment of ocean here, just outside the harbor, has been listed as federally impaired since 2006. And some of this water, if not all of it, is part of the National Historic Park, and it's impaired. The law requires that impairment be remediated, but that law has never been applied by the state of Hawaii. And so when nutrients get really high, this happens. Here we have a May 2020 phytoplankton bloom where the water was almost green-black, where hundreds of people swim on a daily basis. And that was due to a leaking sewer pipe that allowed raw sewage to flow into the bay, providing much nourishment for the phytoplankton, and we got this horrific bloom. That leak has subsequently been repaired. But even the minor leakages that all sewers create, and all cesspits create, and all septic systems create, provide nutrition that grows phytoplankton. And as the water becomes ever so more cloudy, the algae act as sunscreen to block the ultraviolet light, and it's the ultraviolet light that disinfects the ocean exceedingly well every day, and why the ocean is by and large safe to swim in, even in urban places like downtown Kailua Kona. So this may be time for a break, and I will pause here for a few moments to allow you to put your player on pause and then come back and restart. And I admit this is a lot of information, so it may be a good time to take a break. So, part 2.
In this episode of Voice of the Sea, we're learning about the newest strategies for recycling wastewater. We'll check out farms that use recycled water and tour a new University of Hawaii building that captures and treats wastewater and rainwater. But first, we start off at Manele Bay Wastewater Treatment Facility on Lanai.
Lanai has the capability of recycling 100% of its wastewater on island. We're the only major Hawaiian island that has that capability. This plant takes all the wastewater from Manele, so all the residents, all the small boat harbor, the hotel, the golf course, etc. We are producing the highest quality of effluent at this treatment plant. It's called R1, or Recycled Water 1. So we're meeting the highest standards set by the Department of Health in Hawaii. We are processing about 60,000 gallons of effluent every day. We're recycling that water into what's irrigating the golf course right now. We're really essentially farming bacteria. Certain bacteria like aerobic processes or want to have oxygen, and certain bacteria like anaerobic processes, so they don't want to have oxygen. There's 7 different processes that are happening through these different tanks. Sometimes we're adding air, sometimes we're settling, sometimes we're decanting and moving material. But in essence, we're making the bacteria as happy as we can make them, so the bacteria are eating away and happy. Right now you can't smell anything. I mean, it smells almost like a rich soil. We take samples every single day, and then we also take samples every week. What's coming into the plant, what's leaving the plant. Behind me, the headworks has essentially 2 different functions. So it is removing any kind of stringy material that's...
Yeah, if you want to see the rest of that, go to that link provided. I terminated it just in the interest of time. So, focusing again on Hawaii, and particularly West Hawaii, we can solve the problems of that sump discharge while creating an irrigation economy. Discharge water is simply a cost. An irrigation economy creates value added, creates revenue, creates jobs, and creates sustainability. So we can irrigate grass, and that'll be the good place to start, but we can irrigate tree crops, we can irrigate ulu orchards, we can irrigate ornamentals, and so the opportunities are huge. And the investment we have to make is to bring our wastewater treatment plant up to R1, just like Manili Bay has done. R1 water is the highest quality water. It can be used for the irrigation of foods we eat raw. And it makes sprinkler irrigation of public places safe. It makes the creation of artificial wetlands for public recreation sites safe. And all that's needed is to incentivize and price reclaimed water to compete with fresh water. And we know the cost of fresh water keeps going up and up and up because it has to be pumped from great depths using tremendous amounts of electricity. And that is not something we have to do with R1 reclaimed water. But what's needed in any reuse project is careful monitoring so that we're applying the right amount of water at the right time and have the ability to quickly correct to create deficiencies in water application so we don't end up with dead spots in our grass. Dead spots don't use water very well at all. But that is all easily avoided by good irrigation management. So in places like Phoenix, Arizona, where purple pipe is everywhere, they are creating an irrigation economy. From the wastewater treatment plant, we've got water reuse. The treatment plant can be operated to generate biogas, which can be used directly in transportation systems as a combustible gas, or you can burn the gas to generate electricity. The biosolids from the wastewater treatment plant make tremendous soil amendments and could be incorporated with the green waste composting system we have in this county to make even a better soil amendment, because most of our ground needs about as much organic soil amendment as you can afford to put on it. And so there's a market there. Fertilizer can be extracted from wastewater, as they are doing in Honolulu right now. And they generate a little white pellet that's indistinguishable from the white pellet that you might purchase at Home Depot. The beauty of that white pellet is that it's produced locally from a local source of nitrogen, which is human waste, and we're not importing additional nitrogen in the form of imported fertilizer. So it helps reduce the nitrogen inputs to our island ecosystem. The only thing we need for water reuse is storage. And so creating ponds, creating tanks, or repurposing tanks, such as this one, to store the wastewater for reuse is really important, because the wastewater supply needs to be buffered. That is, when we need more water, we've got it. If we have a very cool, wet winter, then we have a place to put the extra water so that it is not discharged. So a storage management system is critical for any reuse system, no matter what island or what land you live on. And so irrigated avocados, irrigated landscape. Here's some landscaping that's irrigated very poorly because of the sprinkler design was not correct. And so that's going to have to be redone. Here you have an irrigation system that looks very, very uniform. Looks like there might be a couple places that could use some more water, and many of our golf courses could use more water if it were available. And this is the way you assure uniformity of distribution. You put out these little cups and you turn the sprinkler system on, and then you monitor the amount of water that falls in those cups. And where you have too little water, adjustments in the sprinklers can be made. And over time, sprinklers will need constant adjustment, which means somebody will have a job opportunity to be an irrigation manager. So, reclaimed water irrigation in Keauhou is a big success. The Hei'eia wastewater treatment plant in Keauhou produces wastewater that the golf course utilizes. And I am told they could probably use some more water, but that more water is coming as development continues to occur in the Keauhou region. There's nutrients in reclaimed water, and so it can reduce the amount of fertilizer that the golf course needs to purchase. And golf course fertilization is a very expensive problem. People look at golf courses and say, well, yeah, there's a lot of leachate, and that's where we're getting a lot of nutrients in the ocean. Many people, including myself, have crunched the numbers, and that is not the case. The leachate from home septic systems and home cesspools is far greater in terms of the source of nutrients, because it goes to the ground and there is no uptake. And so every gallon of water used to irrigate that golf course is a gallon of fresh water conserved. And golf course managers tend to be some of the best water management people in our community. And so we can turn to them as we begin irrigation and use their expertise to help us develop an efficient agricultural irrigation system. So where can we irrigate? Well, the golf courses obviously are first choices. The golf course at Kawaneiki uses a lot of water. They could use more water, especially water of a little higher quality. And so there's an opportunity. Over on the left is the old airport recreation area. And if you look carefully at the green grass, you'll see lots of circle and lots of brown diamonds where the water is not applied correctly, and they could stand to revamp their system to uniformly apply water and to be able to apply more water efficiently. And all along the old airport runway, those areas could be turned into grass and reclaimed water used there. And this will probably be one of the first places that gets the R1 water as soon as it becomes available. The other place that could use reclaimed water is the agricultural park at Kaimanani. All of those farms are using drinking water to irrigate their products and are paying high prices for that water. And there's 100 acres or more to the north of that irrigated land that could become agriculturally productive if it had water. So we can turn wastewater from a waste to a resource. And it means some initiatives. It means some leadership. It means going out and finding the available financing, and it's out there. And we need a public policy in our county that says that there is no water to waste, and all decisions made by local government hinge on its water impact. And so all the departments then are collaborating to keep water in their focus. Water is our number one sustainability issue. Without sufficient water, we are unsustainable. So agricultural economies is a way of making us more sustainable than perhaps we've ever been. But we need to take the waste out of wastewater. Thank you for listening. I hope this will move us into action.